All right, what's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing? I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to do like a 10-minute, I say 10 minute, it's going to end up being 20 minutes probably, but I'm going to do a 10-minute uh, introduction into what is MOC and how do we use it. You know, what's it good for, that sort of thing. Um, how do we take advantage of it most of the time? Sometimes mock is like, bleh, and you can't do anything with it. But lately, it's been pretty good. So, um, we'll see if anybody's watching. All right, people are watching. All right, so I'm going to get started. So, what is mock? Mock is an acronym, and it simply means market on close. So it's MOC is what you're looking for. A lot of people don't know that at the end of the day, on all the exchanges, I don't care what stock exchange a stock trades on, there is a closing print that is done, a final print that's usually pretty large. There's also MOO, which is market on open. It's the same thing. The only difference is one's at the beginning of the day. It happens exactly at 9:30:01. 9:30.01, and mock happens at the end of the day, typically at 4 o'clock in 1 second or 2 seconds right after that. Back in the day, um, mock was very much handled by what they called specialists for that particular stock. It was manually done, but these days they use the computers. So the computers are pretty quick about doing the print. That being said, the information is publicly disseminated. NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange start disseminating in the morning at 9:25 in the morning. We get our list. I get my list. And at 3:50 Eastern Standard Time, there's another list that comes out for the end of the day buy and sell imbalances. And basically, you have to understand how a buy and a sell imbalance works and why they exist. The reason they exist is because there a lot of mutual funds, hedge funds, um, they don't necessarily go in and out of a stock and trade it kind of like we do. So they take positions for longer periods of time. And when they want to sell something or buy something, they usually buy in big bulk and they don't really tend to care too much the price they're getting. Like say somebody wanted to buy 1 million shares of Tesla. To them, the difference between $321 and $321.50 is nothing in the grand scheme of what they're looking at. So these imbalances exist because you have often throughout the day people that funds that make decisions that they want to sell or buy, and so this creates an imbalance at the end of the day. Now the market has to pair these imbalances off. So if you have something that has a 5 million buy imbalance, they will literally push the stock up until they find sellers for those 5 million shares to pair it off to zero. So that parity needs to happen for a market on close order to take effect. Also, a market on open order to take in effect. Let's just make the assumption when I say market on close, I'm talking about both the market on open and the market on close because they both function the exact same way. Okay. Um, so that being said, um, we know what it is, right? We've we've discussed what it is. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry. Um, I just want to make sure. Okay, good. Okay, so we've discussed what it is and basically how it works. Now, the function of the market in order to, I guess, partake in the trade is simplistic in its definition, but very, very hard to execute. And I want you guys to know that from the very beginning that mock is not like um, it's not easy to do. You have to be very fast. You have to put in the correct orders. You have to know like what's a good imbalance, what's a bad imbalance, what's a normal one. It's not one of those things where you can just see an imbalance and go, okay, that's a big imbalance. Let's take that. So there are some particulars to it. So we're going to talk about two basically two individual pieces of streams of information that I use to tell me what MOC is going to be. And then we're going to discuss on two examples how you can take advantage of it. So the first thing is you need a market on close imbalance meter. It's going to give you an overall whatever the complete composite of the buys and sells on all the stocks are. It's going to give you a number. So MOC is going to be like, 1.2 billion to sell or 1.5 billion to buy. And people go like, what does that mean? That's the overall number taken into account for all stocks. And to have those stocks, uh, basically they're uh, computing the overall buy and sell, and then you get either a negative number or a buy number, a negative number or a positive number. So I use Top Step. You can use other ones, but I use Top Step. You can see this when the imbalance came out. Um, at the end of the day, it was 800 million to sell. But as the imbalance went on, I want you to look at this number. So as the imbalance went on, it 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 kind of got paired off a little bit, but then we had more sellers come in, and it actually got all the way down here to 1.9 billion to sell. You can see 1.906 billion to sell, and then it started getting paired off. So typically pairings in the market start happening around 3 minutes until the close, is when you start seeing a lot of this stuff start getting paired and going to zero. So and that's exactly what happened here at the end of the day. You could see at the end of the day it paired. It had 238 million left. It probably paired probably paired out on the final prints. So that being said, this is the overall MOC. This, like I said, Moo, we're going to consider Moo to be part of this too, but this is the overall MOC. So it was a sell imbalance, the overall sell imbalance. And if you look at like 350 Eastern Standard Time on your charts of SPY, you could see that there was, we can pull one up here, but you can see that um, there was a little bit of a sell. So let's see here. What we're doing is I'm 1 hour behind, so we're interested in this candle right here. This one. Okay, the big one right here. When that number came out, 800 million to sell. People that play MOC like me, you can kind of front run the number, let's call it. And this sell candle that you see here that was 50 cents was because of that. So you could play SPX puts on that if you wanted to. Like I said, Wild Wild West, kind of a crazy thing to do. I do it all the time, but I know what I'm doing. So there's that. Um, but you do have to be very, very quick. But this is a way that you can take advantage of it. So you get the indication, you get puts, and boom, you get a move, right? Okay, so this is a 1 minute. I got a 1 minute chart because I want you to see when the indication came out here at 350, we got this initial sell, and then we came back a little bit, and then remember on this was the initial sell, and then remember it started to pair off, but then it got bigger to 1.9 billion. You can actually see that here on the chart. So here's where it got bigger, and right around here, and then we sold into the close again. So this final candle right here was the close. This one, and then this is the print. This is the print right here. That's why it's so big. Right now we're going into after hours, but that's how it works on SPY. Now I have a program that I use that a Nasdaq imbalance for individual stocks. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. I'm going to go back into the chat room because I put this stuff in the chat room so that everybody can have access to it. You can see my first uh apologize. You can see my first initial, let me find it, is right here. And this is what it looks like. So it's a Nasdaq net order imbalance, and it showed a sell imbalance, basically what this means is like, this is the ticker symbol, right? So this ticker, I want to talk about ANSS, but ANSS had a sell imbalance. When it first came out, the sell imbalance, it was a sell because of the S. If it's a buy, it's a B. The first one was 1.52 million. This was the current reference price. Reference price if it was to pair where it was currently in the market. And then this is how many was already paired going into the book. So you can see they had a oversupply of sells to the tune of 1.5 million that they needed to get zero sum. They needed to find buyers for it. So as that print went on, what you can see here is I gotta these guys. I gotta find the other one. Okay, here. It became 6.4 million to sell on ANS. So you could see like 5 million was added to it. And the pairing actually went up. So it was more than 5 million. It was more like 6.5 million was added to it. Because now we have a sell imbalance of 6.45 million. The current reference price was $2 cheaper at 391, but 3.7 million was paired. Okay. So they need to find a buyer for this. So I want you guys to see two examples. I'm gonna show you ANSS sell imbalance and TTD right here, sell imbalance 1.2 million. You can see only about 30% of it was paired. All right. Now this was 354, 355. So we have 5 minutes to go, and the market needed to eat 6.4 million shares of ANSS, and it needed to eat 1.2 million shares of TTD. When I say it needed to eat, it needed to find buyers. So the market's an auction. So what do you do in an auction? If you can't find buyers at a certain price level, you have to lower the price. And then eventually you have buyers step in and you get parity. That's what I'm talking about with the parity, okay? All right, so this is what the NASDAQ order imbalance feed looks like. There's also one for the New York Stock Exchange. We're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about these particular two. I've defined what MOC and MOO is. I've defined why they exist. And now we're talking about the individual ones and how does it affect the individual stocks. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to pull up a chart of the first one is going to be ANSS. All right, this is going to be a 1-minute chart. All right, so we're going to go back when the initial indication came out. It's going to be right here. Okay, this is the initial indication, 350. 350. Now remember that initial indication was 1.4 or whatever it was million to sell. So not that bad. The market didn't really react. The market basically said, we can eat that. It's not a big deal. Okay. But then what happened a couple minutes later is that jumped to 6.5 million. When that jumped to 6.5 million right here, you can see the market started to react to it. So that's a lot. So guys like me stepped in and started shorting it, basically, in essence, shorting it, because we knew that they were going to lower the price in order to find parity. This was put in the room. It was $391 when $391.90 when I put it into the room. So we took a short, and you can see what happened. So these are 1 minute candles. They're increasing. They're increasing. They can't find buyers for the sellers. So what do? They have to reach way down in the book. This is the final print. You can see on ANSS, they printed it at like $374 and change, I believe. 374.30 is what they printed at, I believe. This is because the algorithm that matches the to have parity had to reach all the way down in the book to find that liquidity. So that's why that took place. So that was a bang bang winner winner. Like Rip says, winner winner chicken breakfast. So if you took the short at 391.90 and you got printed at 374.30, you can do the math. That's 17 bucks. Okay. That's one example. Now the other example is TTD. Now, TTD had a sell imbalance. We've already defined what that sell imbalance is. It was 1.3 million, 4 million. Forget exactly what it was, but I showed it to you. Yeah, I showed it to you guys. And so when the imbalance came out on TTD, it's right here. It's this candle. So the imbalance came out and the market reacted right away. So it came down 30 cents, let's say, okay? Not a big deal. Uh, the initial indication was 588K to sell, but then it went up. When it went up, this is what happened when it went up, meaning it went to 1.3, 1.4 million. The market said, "Oh, we need to go lower in order to find buyers." Guys like me stepped in and shorted it. And so this is what happened here. And then you got your final print at the end of the day on TTD down here, which was about, let's see, 80 cents, a dollar, like a dollar, let's say, on that particular trade. Now, this one obviously is bigger. This one was a bigger winner. ANSS was a bigger winner. This one stood out because ANSS has never had a big sell imbalance like that. I later found out that it's because they're getting bought out by Synopsys. It's a share for share cash and share deal. And so, that kind of got wonky there at the end of the day. If you look at SNPS, it kind of went down too, but that's what happens with those merger ones. Um, so this one was a winner, and then this one was another winner too, because TTD typically does not have a large sell imbalance. So when I'm looking at that Nasdaq order imbalance, I'm looking at the ones I've done this for so long. I know which ones are not supposed to be on there. Let's put it that way. They're not supposed to be on there because they're not unbalanced. But when they show up, I'm like, oh, that got my attention. I know I can take a trade in that. So just to kind of reiterate, you get those initial indications at 3:50 in the afternoon. Um, that allows us to identify which ones that we're going to partake in, which ones that we think we can make money on. We also took a trade on Open. OPEN had a 1.8 million buy imbalance. It was sitting at $1.45. You could have monkey hammered it and got 50,000 shares, and the print went off at $1.49. So bing bang, you make $2,000 on the print. That being said, I I teach this, I have taught this, and I live do this in the chat that I'm in, which is Tenant Trade Group, which is owned by Ripster. Um, this seems to be a very popular thing. Everybody wants to do mock. Mock is not easy. It's very, very hard. I've been doing mock for a very long time, which is why I make it look easy. But mock has always been a bread and butter kind of in, weapon of my warfare when it comes to trading. So hopefully, I don't know how long this was, 18 minutes. So I'm 8 minutes past my 10-minute video. Hopefully that kind of gives you guys an idea on, how I do what I'm looking at when I do mock. This is just a brief overview. This is not, you watch the video and all of a sudden you're an expert at mock trading. That's not what this is at all. Please don't think that, okay? I'm going to be doing more mock. I might as well just tell you, I'm probably going to do mock uh, in the morning and in the evening, and there needs to be some compensation to that because I'm not going to just give away all my secrets. I want to be. It took me 29 years to learn a lot of this stuff, so I want to teach people, but at the same time, there needs to be some sort of compensation. So I haven't quite figured out what that looks like, but this is one of the things that is it's a learnable thing if you repeat it over and over and over again. It's a repeatable, profitable thing, especially when the mocks are huge, 4 billion, 5 billion, 6 billion. We've had days where I put it in chat where it's like um, mock 4.2 billion to sell, and we get SPX puts for like a dollar and they go to 18 or 20. So you're making a lot of money on the mock. So hope you guys enjoy the video. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll try to answer them. Also, as well, if you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know. Reply, maybe retweet it. Tell your friends about it. Tell your mother-in-law about it. Get her to follow me on Twitter @TapeReader.